as Jason was saying, I'm an advocate for the Corporation for Supportive Housing Speak Up program. I speak for my community, for the mentally ill and the homeless. I have schizophrenia, and about 7 years ago, I felt my medication was poisoning me. I was in psychosis, and it was all consuming, and of course, I was terrified. I was hallucinating about enemy armies invading America. In my hallucinations, my family and I were their targets. Although no one else could see or hear them, they were my reality. I chose, instead of fighting, to run. I cut off all contact with my family and everyone I ever knew, and I ran. I found an old abandoned park behind the Santa Monica Library. There were homeless vets there, and that's where I lived for the next 4.5 years. They knew I was crazy, but they gave me a place next to them, and they kind of looked out for me. Being that I was not on medication at that time, I'm sure you'll understand that those 4.5 years are pretty much a foggy blur. I remember the basics: screaming at walls, yelling at the enemies only I heard and saw, and kindness when kindness happened. It was through kindness from a stranger that I got help. He noticed that I had become very ill. At that time, I had very serious bronchitis and skin infections all over my body from not being clean. He begged me to go to Ocean Park Community Center. There's a family clinic there, Venice Family Clinic, and I finally went. I met the doctor there, and he gave me antibiotics and an emergency caseworker. I was in bad shape, but I made it to all the appointments that they had made for me. One of them was Edelman's West Side Mental Health Clinic. It was there that I met Dr. Schwang, and for some reason, even though I was terrified of medications, he didn't frighten me, and he explained to me that there were new medications that didn't have the side effects that I felt were killing me. So, in trusting him, I tried the new medication, and within 2 weeks, it started to work. I started coming out of my psychosis. I'd been in it for 4.5 years. Now, for most people, they would say coming out of psychosis is a good thing. But for someone who has schizophrenia, it's pretty terrifying. I tortured myself, basically, asking myself over and over again, why did this happen? Why wasn't there anyone rescuing me? Why did I look this way? It had been a long time since I looked in a mirror. And how did this happen? And the answers, they never came. So I went into survival mode. I started following instructions. Instructions from my doctor and my caseworker. That's the only thing that felt safe to me. And for 2 months, or yeah, it was about 2 months, so that's what I did. I just followed instructions. So simple to most people, but so impossible for someone like me. Get an ID. Come back to Ocean Park Community Center every day. Eat here. Shower here. And keep coming back. I did that for the 2 months, like I said, until one day I woke up and I could not walk on my right leg. I still to this day don't remember what the doctor told me was wrong with my leg, but I had made it to Ocean Park Community Center. And before I knew it, because I was in such bad condition, the doctor immediately put me to the place that saved my life, Daybreak for Women Shelter. I remember when I walked in there the first time, it was so cold, and I had on a pair of shorts and a t-shirt and some flip-flops. I wasn't trusting to anyone, but this woman that met me at the door was so kind. First thing she did was said, "Are you cold?" Yes, I was. "Would you like a shower?" Yes, I would. After the clothing and the shower, immediately they took me in for a hot meal. Then she walked me to my emergency bed. I hadn't made a bed in 4.5 years, and I certainly hadn't slept in a clean one. I slept so good that night, I didn't want to wake up the next morning. It went on like this, just getting better and better. I took my medication I did the little chores that they asked me to do. I started to make friends. But every day I was worried that I would have to go back out into the streets with my emergency shelter bed. Time ran out, which is usually about a month. Well, within a month and a half, for reasons I don't know, I was given a bed on the transitional side of Daybreak for Women. I couldn't believe it. I finally had a permanent place to sleep. They had promised me that they would not kick me out in terms that I could understand at that point, and that they would find me housing. I, of course, didn't believe them. I worked with my caseworker, though, every week, and she continued to try and help me. I didn't understand filling out applications for housing, any of it. She led me through it step by step, explaining everything in detail. I was there about 6.5 months, I guess, and one day she asked me if I would be interested in living in a place called Supportive Housing for Women in downtown Los Angeles. I didn't really think anything of it. I don't think that at that point I could comprehend what she was saying. But I filled out every paper that she asked me to do, or every form, and signed in all the right places. About 2 weeks later, I received an interview with Downtown Women's Center. And I was so afraid of being rejected, but I went with a staff member who supported me. And we walked into this place, and it was just so beautiful. The people there were so incredibly nice. I got through the interview, but I didn't really think about it. I was, I guess, too afraid to get my feelings hurt, so I just let it go. About 3 weeks after the interview, I got a message from my caseworker. Once again, only this time, she told me they had accepted me, and I finally had a permanent place to live. I moved in officially 3 years ago, November 1st. Since then, I've reconnected with my family. I make candles for the Downtown Women's Center store. I speak to senators, congresspeople, physicians, anybody basically that will listen. I went to Washington, D.C. and spoke to congresspeople there in hopes of bridging the gaps of understanding so that we can get funds so that they can help more people like me. I'm not an educated woman. My expertise is in homelessness. That I survived, and I made a good life. That can be for anyone that's still out there. I truly have a life now. Part of it's from the Speak Up program. Jason can tell you, when I first started this program, I was so afraid to speak and could hardly do so. In coaching and kinship with the people that are also in the program, I now have a life that I could have never even hoped for 5 years ago. And we do need volunteers. People like Jason who will take the time to care about somebody that's just starting out again, trying to learn how to fit into society, that has a story that can get funding to house people. Thank you.